Hi, and welcome to the Everything and Anything in a Bit Day podcast. I'm really excited to have my friend that I've known since I've been 10 years old, and we have kept in touch all these years. So welcome, Brigette, to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So today I have a very interesting story that Brigette wants to share with you, and I think this could actually be one of my top-rated shows because the story is just bizarre, unique, anything that you can think of, crazy, that's what it is. So, Brigette, you met a guy, and we're going to call him Scott, just to keep his name, keep him anonymous. And you met Scott at your work. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so tell me a little bit about how you met Scott.
I met him in 2014. He had transferred from North Carolina to the Air Force Base I was working at. And I went out to happy hour with some coworkers, and he was there. And so that's how we met.
And did you start dating right away in 2014, or did it take him a little while to actually get to convince you?
I was going through a divorce at the time, and he asked me out at that time because he was also going through a divorce. And I declined at that time.
Okay.
I was not really too interested at first.
But then a couple of years later, you decided, yeah, I'll give this guy a shot.
Yeah, I mean, we had worked together for, I think, like 2.5 years by that point. So
Yep.
I had gotten to know him a little better.
I remember getting text about him during that time. You're like, oh, there's this guy. He keeps asking me out. Maybe I'll finally do it. And I remember when you finally did it. So
you actually gave me the nudge.
Yeah. And so you guys ended up being together, exclusive together in 2017. The relationship kind of grew, and you ended up finally getting married to this guy, right?
I did.
And it seemed like I think you got married in the Keys, from what I remember. And I remember you just said,
"Yeah,
we got married." You called me, you text me, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, wow!" Like that was
a moment. Yeah, it was a spur of the moment type of thing.
Yeah, so being very spontaneous and doing it, and maybe if you think he was the one, then go for it. So you were together for a little while, and tell me what happened with something happened with his health. Tell me what happened, and that's kind of how you ended up finding out things about Scott.
Yes, he had a brain aneurysm.
Okay, didn't die though; just was in the hospital.
Yes, he was in the hospital. And I guess I felt compassion at that point. Like it was pretty bad situation. And when he was in the hospital, he gave me his phone.
Okay.
And so I found some things on his phone.
And what was the first thing you found on his phone?
The first thing I found was an ex-girlfriend texting him about why he's not in contact with her. Is he mad at her or something like that? And then I think that was on Facebook Messenger. And I think I went into their conversation history and I found kind of the motherload of other information.
Okay. And so were you upset about the ex-girlfriend texting him, or you were just like, okay, whatever? And did he respond to her at all, like leading her on or anything, or no?
No, I think it had been over. I mean, I was a little annoyed, but he had told me about her. So I knew her. So it really wasn't her that I was, I did want to check their history to make sure that there wasn't a current issue. Yeah.
And then as you did a little more research into his phone, not being nosy because he's in the hospital, he had an aneurysm, and you were kind of, looking through to see what he was up to.
Well, I originally went into his phone to cancel some airline flights tickets that we had because he was in the hospital and we weren't going to be able to make the flight. So that's the original reason I went into his phone, not for any, kind of spying endeavor. But then her message popped up, how it does on your phone, So I was like, oh, what is this? So yeah, I went in then.
I think it's always good to be a little nosy for the new relationship anyway, because you never know.
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't sense anything ahead of time, so I think I was completely fooled in this situation. So what I found was very disturbing.
And it wasn't the girlfriend messages, the ex-girlfriend. So tell us like what you ended up finding in his phone.
Here we go. um, through the comments, apparently she knew his situation. I guess he was bisexual.
Okay.
And that's the
You
entire.
had no idea he was bisexual, right?
No,
Okay.
He never revealed that to me. So apparently our whole relationship, he had been cheating on me with other men. And another woman that he was engaged in with threesomes with men and her.
Okay. So he was cheating with men. He was bringing in an ex-girlfriend into this and having basically three ways with these.
It wasn't it wasn't ex-girlfriend, but it wasn't the one you're thinking of that he was that came up on the messenger. It was somebody I had not known of.
Okay.
She wasn't even an ex-girlfriend. I would say she was more of probably a hookup.
Okay, a hookup. And where were they? And were these messages that you found, or were there pictures?
Yes, there was a lot of pictures.
A lot of pictures. And what were the pictures?
And video.
Oh, and video. I didn't know about the video. Okay, that's interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
and so what did you ended up? What were the pictures? If you can tell us, give us an example of what some of the pictures were.
Gosh, can I even say this? Numerous blowjobs of other men. He was recording himself and taking pictures of himself giving blowjobs to men, multiple men.
And at the same time, or just different men at different times?
Different men at different times.
And this woman was there in the pictures at some points as well. Is that correct?
Yes. Not all the time. I think that wasn't like frequent. I think that was kind of not as frequent, but it was there with her.
And where was he doing this at? At his house? Was he getting a hotel? Was it like
at his house? It was at his house. And then with the girl, I found out it was in one of these sex stores.
Oh.
I guess they were meeting men in these sex stores and having a threesome there in the store somewhere. I don't know.
Like an adult bookstore type thing?
Yes.
Wow.
I guess a shady.
Okay. I didn't know you could do that. But all right. So him and this girl are going out exploring adult bookstores to find men to hook up with. And was she just a regular woman, or was her profession? Was she a prostitute? Do you know like what her deal was?
Actually, she was a physical therapist.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was it always just this one woman, or was it other women that were sometimes involved?
The ex-girlfriend that had texted him or messaged him on Facebook, she was involved with it prior to him leaving North Carolina. So she was involved in three ways with him in the past.
And did he do anything other, like, did he dress up or anything? Was there anything like that was happening?
Yes, I found him dressing in drag in some photos, and he had sent them to her, the ex-girlfriend, the pictures.
Okay. So was he with the men dressed as a woman or in drag whenever he was having sex, or was it just something he did on the side?
Not in any of the photos I found, but I believe I found like some comments about it with text to her that he had engaged in that.
Okay, so just to recap, because this is quite a story. This man you married, had an aneurysm. You ended up trying to go into his phone to cancel a flight that you guys had because he's in the hospital. And you discover that he is not just talking to his ex-girlfriend, but he has a whole secret life of being a bisexual man that is hooking up with men at his house. And he has another woman that comes over and is involved in it as well. And at times, he dresses as a woman. And what?
Yes, that's correct.
And how did you react? Like, what was your reaction? Like, I'm done with this
Oh,
right away. Did you confront him? Like,
well,
what did
remember,
you do
he was
next?
very ill. He was very, very ill. He was in the
Okay.
hospital. He had had open brain surgery after a few months of having the aneurysm.
Oh,
So I think I felt this guilt. I
yeah.
did confront him, but he was kind of so out of it at the time that he didn't seem coherent. Well, his mother came down from North Carolina, and so I felt like I guess, a obligation to continue to take care of him. He couldn't drive. He had to learn how to like kind of talk again. He couldn't remember like the words of things, like a
Yeah.
pencil. He didn't know the name of things, so it was quite the ordeal. And then he had to have open brain surgery. And so, in time, I did confront him. I don't remember at what point, how long after. I know it was before his surgery, open brain
And
surgery.
what was his reaction? Did he admit to it, or he was trying to just like, hey, I had no idea what you were talking about?
He kind of tried to deny it at first.
Yeah.
And I had taken screenshots of everything, like, or emailed myself a
Yes.
lot of the information. So I confronted him with that. And so he broke down and started crying hysterically. And I guess one of the comments that he made, which like kind of disturbed me even more, was like, well, we weren't married yet, was his answer.
Okay.
As an
But
excuse.
it's an excuse, yes, but that's a big part of your life to not kind of disclose to your future wife or your girlfriend.
Right, right.
You
And he
were
went on with this other story about how he was molested as a preteen, and how the aneurysm has affected his behavior. And I was in one of the doctor's offices with him, and
mhm,
the doctor was asking me if he had had any strange behavior in the few years leading up to his aneurysm. So it was all very confusing
yeah.
at the time.
And so he had his surgery, you still stuck by him, and you then afterwards, when he got out of the hospital, how did you end it? Because I know that, you're like, this isn't for me, obviously. He's not truthful, and you probably don't want to be married to a man that is dressing as a woman and is bisexual and that is talking to ex-girlfriends and cheating. So, how did you end this?
Oh, that's a good question. There was other things piling on at the same time that really kind of exacerbated things.
Well, what's an example of a few things that he just like how did
My
this build up?
daughter, before all this, I had just reconciled with my daughter, and she had lived with her dad for a year. We hadn't really spoke much, and so she moved back in, and I was kind of like
Yep.
reestablishing that relationship with her, and he just became insanely jealous of my daughter.
Okay.
And then I was given a beautiful yellow lab puppy by somebody I know
Okay.
as a Christmas present, and he was trying to force me to get rid of her. And anybody who knows me, I've been involved with dog rescue for many,
Yep.
many years. This just was not, it was like, just not going to fly with me. And
Yep.
then I also was, struggling with the guilt,
Yep.
because he was not well. And I had rented my house. And so I called my friend who had rented it and told her to cancel. Um, it had been month to month initially. And so
Yep.
I had told her to cancel the contract that was coming, the permanent, the year annual contract. I told her to go ahead and cancel it. And I kind of just I went to stay with some friends, and
Yep.
then I flew to Indianapolis to stay with my family to get some distance until
And
the.
and did he ask like where are you going? Like did he know like something was up? Like did he know that you probably were going to end up leaving him?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
I had told him I was sleeping in a separate bedroom for probably several weeks before I actually moved out.
Okay. So you moved out. You ended the relate. Did you get an annulment or did you have to do a divorce?
Um, I wish I could have done an annulment, but COVID hit
Oh,
and it made it very difficult. I actually had to file it through a different county to get a quickie divorce because the county I live in is the biggest county in Florida. And so there was a huge backlog at the time. So I was looking at like a year and a half
Oh, no.
to get divorced. And then in the state of Florida, they don't have an automatic annulment option. You have to go to court to get an annulment. And so during COVID, that was just not going to be an option.
And did he contest the divorce, or did he let it kind of go through and he let it go?
He let it go because, there was a lot of information there.
But wait, that's not all, folks. We got a little bit more left. So he knew your life. He knew who your ex-husband was. And
wow. Yes, he did.
And somehow they ended up in public supermarket together, right? At the same time.
Yes.
And this happened a few times, and they ended up somehow becoming friends.
That's true. He approached him in Publix, and they struck up a conversation, and they started hanging out. And I didn't know about this for some time.
Yep.
I was completely clueless because I don't have a relationship with my ex-husband. We are not in speaking terms, so I had no idea. My daughter came and told me about the situation at first. It was months later, though. They had been friends for months at this point.
And the other thing is that he was probably stalking your ex-husband, right? To find out how he could, because, running into your ex-husband in Publix is not something that's normally going to happen. Oh yeah, hey, how are you? And then they just struck up a conversation into becoming friends. Most likely he had to investigate who he was, where he lived. He knew his name, obviously, and stuff, because you guys were
together. He had met him. He had run into him at times, with the kids.
Was your ex-husband, so do you know if Scott told your ex-husband, hey, me and Bridget are no longer together, and is that how they kind of bonded? Just kind of maybe talking about you?
Yes, I believe there was a lot of bashing of me going.
Okay.
Formation.
And then you ended up meeting a new guy a little bit later in life, and his name was Jeff, and you guys were dating. And one night you two were at a bar, and Scott shows up. You want to tell us about that? Like what happened then? Because he was definitely stalking you at that point.
He actually started stalking me before we got divorced. As soon as I moved out, he started stalking me. That's one of the reasons I left and went to Indianapolis to get away from him, because he came into my work, and I work for the state of Florida, and it's completely fenced in and gated and everything. And he found a way in and came into my office, and it startled me. So I think that incident you're talking about was almost a year later. It was in December of 2020, and I had left him in January of 2020. He came to a bar that we were at.
Okay.
And he, I guess, wouldn't come in the bar. He started shouting from outside the bar.
Oh, my God. Okay.
That my boyfriend stole his wife.
Okay.
Yeah. He was saying other things. I can't remember now. I just was like, I kind of froze. I was like, I didn't understand what was happening because it had been so long. And he's retired military and his first job in the military was explosives.
Okay.
And he had been deployed in combat. And so he has in his house, a whole room of just weapons, so I was pretty startled.
Yeah.
So he seemed to be trying to get my boyfriend, who also has guns.
Okay.
But you're not allowed to have a gun in a bar, Yeah,
of course.
So he is trying to entice him to a fight outside the bar, because you can't bring a weapon into a bar. And I didn't realize all of this, until the next day of probably what his plot was.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you're aware, but in Florida we have stand your own ground law.
Okay. Nothing surprised me about Florida, but yes, go ahead.
If you get in a fight with somebody, you can claim self-defense, and no charges are pressed.
Oh, okay. So he could have shot him and killed him, and he could have said it was self-defense.
Exactly.
Okay, good. I'm so glad I don't live in Florida anymore. Thank God. So,
my boyfriend at the time was very wise. He didn't go outside. he
Good.
kind of like knew better to do that, to engage him.
Yeah.
He stayed inside the bar and alerted security.
And then, so how did he finally leave you alone? Like, like, when did he finally, what was the end point where he stopped stalking you and started moving on with his life?
Well, there was another stalking incident. I think a few days later, he came to my boyfriend at the time's house. It was a Sunday night. It was like around 9:30 p.m. And he, I guess, had tripped the security cameras in the
Okay.
back. He was like kind of on stepping on a rock or something and kind of leaning, like looking above the fence. It was a 6-foot fence, and he was dressed in army
Oh,
fatigues.
God.
And then my boyfriend at the time, he has, custody, partial custody of his children, and he was
Yes.
very concerned. So he went out and chased him, and Scott took off in like
Yeah.
a zigzag military kind of fashion. So, in military fatigues.
Yeah.
And so my boyfriend at the time filed a police report for stalking with the city, and I guess they went out to his house,
Okay.
the police detectives, and interviewed him, and he kind of admitted to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't think it was taken any further than that. But then he was kind of texting me from time to time, harassing me through text. Um, and I kind of stopped that, but I don't know if you really want to know how I did it.
I do want to know. Yeah. Tell us.
I sent a photo, a memento photo.
Oh, okay, got it. So you had the proof, and you
Yeah,
decided, I'm going to send this to you, and basically, if you keep messing with me, this is going to go further than just this text message. Is basically what your message was.
yeah. I didn't put any words. I just sent the picture.
Got it.
You can pull the picture.
And he got the message right away.
Yeah, and he never contacted me again.
Okay, that's great. But were you scared though, like when this was happening? I mean, to have somebody come in army fatigues to your boyfriend's house when his children are there, that's going to be scary, especially since this guy is ex-military, has guns. I mean, he could have shot up the whole house or could have broke in the middle of the night and killed everyone. I mean, obviously he's not in his right mind, whether it's
Right.
brain aneurysm or it's just, PTSD or just any mental illness. So,
He did have PTSD. He was
yeah.
diagnosed with that. So yeah, and I had caught him driving by my house numerous times as well. So yes, it was frightening. I did actually buy a gun
Okay.
and learned how to shoot it a little bit. And because I was pretty nervous. I
Yeah,
mean,
I would be too.
I was alone, and at the time I did have my boys, but I had joint custody, so there was times they weren't here.
Right.
You know,
And
and
they were
so
teenagers too at the time, also, right? So, I mean, it isn't like you have like 35-year-old children that are there to protect you. You would have to protect them because they're kids.
um, in a way, my oldest son is very equipped with knowing how to operate a gun.
Okay.
Yeah, he's pretty knowledgeable. But still, they are teenagers. You
Yeah.
don't want your teenage son to have to go through that.
Kill an ex-boyfriend? Yeah, no, I would say I don't think that'd be the best way to start his adult life.
And I mean, it was a little bit of a comfort that he knows how to use the gun better than I can. In an
Yeah.
emergency situation, he could have probably at least explained a little bit to me, but they weren't there sometimes. So yeah, so I got a gun. I installed, security cameras,
Yeah.
you know.
And so what did you kind of learn from this? Whenever you do decide to have a boyfriend again, will you do a background check? Well, like, what would you, I feel like if this happened to me, I don't know if I'd ever want to date again, or if I would, I don't know. I feel like I'd have to get a private investigator and do a background check on anybody because I would be so
I don't think
terrified.
any of that would have helped. It was pretty secret. I
Yeah.
mean, the only way to find out was to get into his phone. So I don't think a background check. I mean, he was retired military. He's
Yeah.
a professional engineer for the Air Force.
Yeah. I mean, this is it's just insane to me that he had this whole secret life. Then he was a stalker. I mean, it's just like, you're lucky that you got out of this without being hurt, at some point, or your family being hurt, or your ex-boyfriend being hurt. I mean, I
Yeah,
feel like you're really lucky in that aspect.
and really become unstable, and it just didn't make sense to me why he was stalking me, given that background he had. Like it just. I think it was more of a possession. That's when
Yeah.
people usually stalk, when they see you as a possession. And from different things, I've read some other texts to male friends of his.
Yeah.
I don't think are aware of his background. There was some indication that I was kind of a trophy wife, like to
Okay.
different events at the base to
Okay.
show, because I found out later there was a rumor on base that he was gay,
Oh,
because I
okay.
still have workers that I'm in contact with, and so I guess there was a rumor going around on base, and I think he was desperate to kind of squash that.
Yeah.
And
And so
so,
you were bringing you to these events would squash him, people thinking he's gay.
right. So when I married him, that's the first thing we started doing, is going to all these events on the base, getting
Okay.
galas and different things. And he would like immediately introduce me as his wife. And so
Yeah.
it didn't really click until later, you
Yeah.
know.
I mean, I feel you're so lucky that you got out of this and you were, not physically hurt in any way. So, I mean, I know mentally this must have been horrible.
The most horrible thing was the idea that I could have some kind of venereal disease, you know.
Exactly. And did
Yeah.
you get tested for everything? And luckily,
Immediately.
you
Yeah,
were
everything was
clear,
fine.
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. And tell me about him and your ex-husband. Are they still friends, or did that friendship end because he learned stuff?
So that finally came to an end. My daughter, I guess, let it slip, his background, his the fact that he had cheated on me, and then also the little key factor that was other men who came
Yeah.
out. And I'm not even the one who told my daughter. My
Yeah.
brother is the one who told my daughter.
Oh.
And so, yeah, so she, let it slip to my ex, and he didn't believe her at first. So the friendship continued for several more months.
Oh, wow.
And then he asked my daughter again, are you sure? Are you sure? And she said, absolutely sure. I think that kind of spooked him at that point.
Yeah,
And
I mean, your ex-husband's a little homophobic, so he just probably didn't want that around. Plus, the guy wasn't being truthful with him about his
right.
friendship. He was
No, I
probably
don't think so.
he was probably very attracted to your ex-husband, is what my guess is.
And that was my guess from the very beginning,
Yeah,
because my ex-husband is pretty good looking.
yeah,
He's fit, he's tall,
yeah,
it's like kind of his type.
yeah. Okay. And I had to say, the other night when we were talking about this, just preparing for this podcast, I haven't laughed that hard in a long time. I know this isn't such a funny thing, but it just.
It's stranger than fiction.
And I really think if anybody is looking to make a good movie, please contact us and we'll be happy to talk about giving you the rights to this story, because I think it would be.
My little twist would be to change it that they fall in love, my ex-husband.
Yeah, exactly.
Ex-husbands.
Exactly. Exactly. And maybe they adopt a kid. Who knows?
They say about men that are extremely homophobic, right?
Oh, yeah. The ones that are that homophobic are usually gay themselves. So, yes. Well, I think this story is fascinating. I really, really appreciate you sharing this with me and sharing this with my audience. I think this is such a unique story. And I bet you're not the only one that has found stuff on phones of people that they're dating. Probably things worse than this have been found, but this is pretty bad. So I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you survived. Now, are you looking for dating now? I know you're thinking about relocating to another state and finding. Are you going to wait till then to maybe find a new boyfriend or husband or?
Yes, I would like to get remarried. I am going to wait until I move. It's no point, I'm just want to focus on making the move, finding
Okay.
another job.
Well, I appreciate you so much for being on here. This was fantastic. I'm glad we got to share this story with everybody. Everybody, please follow the podcast. I'm on Apple, I'm on your Spotify, on Amazon. So follow me on your favorite podcast platform. You can also send me an email if you have any questions to follow up for Brigette about this, or if you have any show ideas. The email is at everythingandanythingpodcast.com. And thanks so much for listening. Thanks for joining, Brigette. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay.